Good morning, traders. Matt Weller here, Global Head of Research with FOREX.com. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of April, 2026, and we're heading into a very dense day of economic data, central bank meetings, and Magnificent Seven earnings. In today's video, I'll break down everything that you need to know ahead of today's U.S. session. Let's get into it. Starting with the headlines out of Iran, there really isn't much in the way of new headlines. Apparently, President Trump told his aides to game out an extended blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. So clearly we're not seeing much in the way of movement toward opening that key area. And as a result, we see oil prices rising yet again, rising about 4% today, well into the low 100s area. Nonetheless, U.S. indices are holding flat, as is the U.S. dollar, and gold is edging lower. More on that momentarily. Looking ahead, this would, outside of a war in the Middle East, would be one of the biggest days of the year in terms of other market moving data. We have the Federal Reserve interest rate meeting. This could be Powell's last as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. That's at 2 o'clock with the key press conference to follow at 2:30. My key question for the meeting is whether Powell announces whether he'll stay on the board after his chairmanship ends or whether he'll ride off into the sunset. The more I read about it, though, the more I'm starting to think he may not make that announcement during this meeting, which is primarily about conveying the message from the FOMC as a whole, and instead look to make that announcement at a later date. We also have before that a Bank of Canada meeting at 9:45 Eastern, where an interest rate decision, which won't be a decision at all, will be announced, and then the press conference to follow at 10:30. And then after market close, we'll get earnings from 4 of the Magnificent Seven companies together, accounting for about 20% of the weighting in the S&P 500 and 30% of the NASDAQ 100. So we'll definitely see some volatility in indices after the close, and that's something you're going to want to be watching almost regardless of what you're trading. Today's chart of the day, as I alluded to earlier, is gold. Gold here on the 4-hour chart has formed, you could either call it a head and shoulders pattern if you squint. I prefer to just look at it as a broad rounding top pattern here, finding resistance at 48.50. It's since broken now below a key level of near-term support near 4,600. That's where we saw some previous lows, as well as the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement. As long as gold remains below that level, I think the path of least resistance for the precious metal is to the downside. And of course, we'll have some potential volatility events, especially around the Federal Reserve meeting. Last note on this chart is you can squint and see a potential bullish divergence with the 14-period RSI. Essentially, the RSI here in the lower panel put in a higher high, whereas price put in, the RSI in the lower panel put in a higher low, whereas price itself put in a lower low. This could signal fading selling momentum, at least in the short term, and perhaps the potential for a bounce, but I would treat anything in that vein with skepticism unless or until we can get back above 46.10, that key support level. Maybe then we could see at least a short-term bullish bias emerge on gold, but for now, I think the market is speaking and pushing gold lower. That is today's video. Thank you for carving a couple minutes out of your day to watch. If I could ask just one quick favor before you go, please do just drop a like on this video. It's a free way to show your support that helps us with the algorithms. And if you're not already, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel at FOREX.com. Thanks again, and best of luck with your trades today.